They're selling the farm, literally. 30 years later, it still feels a bit like the VFL. Preaching to the recently converted.
The monks at New Norcia are about to make a lot of money.
They're selling the farm, literally. $40 million worth of prime agricultural land 90 minutes from Perth going under the hammer. They need the cash because some of the Benedictine monks who lived there were creeps who raped and abused a generation of children. And now those children are grown-ups and they're suing. Who would have thought there'd be institutionalised pedophilia in an isolated monastery in the middle of the wheat belt where the monks controlled everything? They owned the town, literally owned the town. They founded it in 1847. They grew their own food on the farm that they're now selling. They baked their own bread. That's where we know the cafe's from. For decades, we sent orphans there. We sent orphans to the creepiest place in Western Australia. That image isn't photoshopped. It's real. It was taken in 2004 by a photographer from the West. Does that make your skin crawl or what? Imagine being a kid and being administered pastoral care by a bunch of sexually repressed men in robes like that dude. He looks like that weirdo monk in the Da Vinci Code.
Recipe for disaster.
Surprise, surprise, it wasn't just the sourdough that the monks were needing. It was the choir boys as well. The Royal Commission found 1 in 5 New Norcian priests between 1950 and 2021 were alleged child abusers. That's 3 times the going rate for Catholic institutions, which are themselves already way above the national average. 71 people made claims of sex abuse there between 1980 and 2015. That Benedictine order has already had to pay out $4.1 million in compensation and lawyers' fees. And that's just in the past 2 years. And the gift shop in New Norcia sees no irony in selling a history book called A Town Like No Other. They're bleeding so much cash they need to liquidate their assets. 8,000 hectares of land is now going to be sold, and the rumour is Twiggy might buy it.
They must have been thinking about the sale for a while.
Not according to the monastery. I asked them on May the 4th about this sale and was told by the communications manager that I've just had a chat with our accountant and it's news to us. So I'm afraid the rumours you've heard are untrue. They were still denying it yesterday when the journo who broke the story rang them. And it was only when she said she'd seen the sales flyer that they backed down. They just can't help themselves. They finally came clean today on their own website.
Must be a headache for Tim Costello.
It is, but it isn't. Costello is the big boss, the Catholic Archbishop of Perth, but the monks at New Norcia don't answer to him. They go straight to the Pope. And Costello's probably happy about that because he's got his own problems. Have you ever been to the David Malcolm Justice Centre on Barrack Street in Perth? So that's where the Catholic Church's lawyers hold mediation talks with people who claim they were abused by priests. It's busier than Grand Central Station. The Royal Commission found that across Australia, the Catholic Church accounted for 1,880 known sexual predators. Another 500 couldn't be identified. Now, if WA accounts for 10% of those, then Costello is facing his own tidal wave of complaints. He's got the same problem as the New Norcia monks. He's asset rich, but cash poor. Like the monks, he's announced his own business rationalisation. On April 27, one of his key lieutenants sent an email to every parish priest in WA to give them an update on a project called the Archdiocese of Perth Transition. It was the kind of document you'd expect a management consultancy like Bain & Co or McKinsey to produce. There's talk of functional reviews and organisational health checks and milestone targets and things like that.
Sounds like corporate talk.
They did get a little ecclesiastical at one stage though. Have a go at this passage. God sent many messages to people via the prophets and in other ways, as recorded in the Old Testament, about the need for cultural attitudinal change. The Church says the review is just part of good business management, but a lot of clergy reckon it's a stalking horse for closing down churches and selling the land.
A good time to be an Anglican.
Yeah, it's not just the mix that have got a problem here. Do you remember this guy?
That's Roger Herft.
He was Anglican Archbishop of Perth. He disappeared a couple of years ago though. He's going to be back in the headlines next week. He's fronting something called the Episcopal Standards Board to answer questions about his time as Bishop of Newcastle. That's the position he held before he got the top job in Perth. Herft was accused in the Royal Commission of being willfully blind to sex abuse by priests under his command in Newcastle between 93 and 05. The Commission found he knew of up to 24 sex abuse allegations. Guess how many he reported to police?
I'm guessing not many.
3. He resigned from the Perth job soon after and he's been in purgatory ever since.
Yeah, well, don't worry about the pearly gates. What we all want to get through is the gates at Optus.
Yeah. So we're going from exorcising demons to exercising demons.
Nice.
Could be the cleverest thing I've ever said, and I've wasted it on you.
Still no grand final ticket for you then?
Nope. I'll be watching it from the pub like everyone else. This has got to be the first time in history that a West Australian has been thankful for having a friend who supports the demons of the doggies. We spent today sucking up to supporters of the team that did this to poor old Peter Sumich. They're good mates now, apparently. 24,000 tickets snapped up in hours. That means no extra allocation for WA. Melbourne Footy Club has 52,000 supporters. They got 12,000 tickets. That's one for every 4.3 or so people. The Western Bulldogs, 46,000 members, also 12,000 seats. That's one for every 3.9. There's 2.7 million people in WA. We get 10,250 tickets. They go on sale on Thursday. That's one ticket for every 263 people. Perth might have the grand final, but 30 years later, it still feels a bit like the VFL.
Just at a better stadium.
Yeah.
You reckon the monks might be watching from New Norcia?
They've been waiting 2,000 years for their second coming. September 25, he'll be here, spreading the faith and preaching to the recently converted. Melbourne spent 57 years in the desert. That's a long time between drinks. I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.